Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to Prime Hour. We are very, 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 very sad for we apologize for the late start. We make machines at times they play fast one on us. We had some technical issues. Thank God we were able to overcome them. And we are live this evening. We are on the 10th of February 2023. We're going to be looking at 11th of February National Youth Day celebrations in Cameroon. We look at the true plebiscite story, which is what we are celebrating today. But was it actually the plebiscite story? When did the 11th of February actually, when was the start of the celebration of the 11th of February? Was it Madu Ahijo who started it? Was it President Paul Biya? And where do we actually get the inspiration for this celebration today? Is there a manipulation somewhere? We're going to be discussing about this this evening, but also we're going to be listening to this address of the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya, to the youth this evening, and we, after that, are going to be talking, analyzing what he must have said to the youth. Is he going to give hope and also projections for 2023? We are discussing this with the panelists who are in the house already. A historian is in the house. Mr. Ndifo Richard, he is a teacher of history with Government High School, Bokwango, out there in Boya. He is also a NEC member with the Social Democratic Front. He's in the house with us all the way from Boya, South Regional Capital. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leonard, and thanks for having me. I want to say Happy Youth Day to all the youth in Cameroon, and especially the socialist youth of the SDF, and also to all my students, both in GHS Bokwango and those who are my former students. I want to say a happy youth week, happy youth day to all of them.
Okay. We also in the company of Prince Joel, who is a journalist working out in Douala, the nation's economic capital. Good evening, Prince. We're glad to have you.
Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and good evening to the million televiewers of my Media Prime Television, and most specific greetings to those who come from Donga Mantun and in Misaji subdivision, the land of milk and honey. It's a very rich topic today, and we're privileged to have historians with us. We'll only be saying what we're taught in school and what we've learned so far and researched. It's a privilege to be once more on Prime Hour, and we want to encourage those who are watching us tonight that it's going to be a very rich evening.
Okay, we also are in the company of Clovis Linwe. He is popularly known as Gentle, teacher of history across some secondary schools in Cameroon, all the way from Boya. Also, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo. Good evening to my learned colleagues. I'm happy again to be here to discuss issues related to Cameroon, to discuss issues related to our historical background. That is very important, especially for our children. I'm happy New Year to televiewers, Happy New Year to my Media Prime team. I'm impressed. We only discuss what we've learned in school, and we only discuss to share we can cheat other subjects, we cannot cheat history because the facts are very stubborn.
Okay.
And we'll remain there.
Mr. Gentle, you came with past GCE questions summarized and answers with key interpretations. Cameroon history A, B, and C. So if you are a history student, please, and you want to pass the GCE, call me after the program.
1,000.
No,
It's
okay.
okay.
I've just said.
It's okay, sir.
Yes, history made easy. So yes. Call me after the program. I will give you one. We also in the company of Prince Obosso, a Pupu. Is the National Secretary General of the Frankist Citizen Movement for Peace and Unity in Cameroon. Good evening, Prince. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kum Leonard. Good evening to all my fellow panelists. I must say I am happy to be here to talk about sensitive issues that concerns the youth of this country. And I want to also use this opportunity to say Happy Youth Day to all the Frankists out there and to tell them that the youth are the future of this country, and generational transition is now. Thank you.
Okay, generational transition is now. I'll start with you. We're talking about 11th of February. For Richard, I'll start with you. What is the significance of this date that Cameroonian youth are called to celebrate, or Cameroonians as in general?
Leo, I will be quite honest with you to say that I find it very difficult to explain the significance of the Youth Day.
Yeah, but historically, 11th of February for Cameroons, especially Anglophones, what happened?
Okay, if we want us to put it in historical context, Leonard, I will start off first of all to, because it's important that we put this in perspective, I will start first of all to explain the origin of this idea of reunification. Because you find a lot of people, maybe politicians in French Cameroon and some historians, who claim that the idea of reunification originated among Southern Cameroonians who were so willing to join their brothers in La République du Cameroon, to suggest that contrary to that view, the whole idea of reunification was hashed by French Cameroonian politicians. The very first individual who came up with that idea was Paul Sopo-Priso in Douala, who came up with the idea of reunification, which narrowly evolved from his what was known as RACAM, which eventually evolved to the UPC. And this idea gradually spread into Southern Cameroons through French Cameroonians who have escaped the violence and the harsh colonial policy of the French into British Southern Cameroons. People like R.J.K. Dibonge and the rest who were French Cameroonians. These were the people who started nursing this idea of reunification and started implanting this idea into British Southern Cameroonians. And the very first British Southern Cameroonians who accepted and embraced this idea of reunification, surprisingly many people will be surprised to hear this, but it was Ndeli who was the very first British Southern Cameroonians who embraced the idea of reunification. Though a lot of historians claim that his embracing of the idea of reunification was not sincere, and that he was not sincere with the idea of reunification, because later on he started moving away from reunification and started embracing this idea of integration with Nigeria. To cut the long story short, this whole thing came about because British Southern Cameroonian politicians could not agree as to the future of British Cameroon. They could not agree because by 1953 or 1957, many members of the KNC, the very first political party that was founded in Southern Cameroon, headed by Ndeli, and whose political objective was reunification. Ndeli was now gradually moving away from that idea of reunification and was now talking forcefully about the idea of integration with Nigeria.
Okay.
And that frustrated some members of his political party, like Foncha, like Joa, and people like Ewane Eli, to withdraw and now founded the KNDP. And I should emphasize that the KNDP original goal was not immediate reunification. The only political party in Southern Cameroon which talked about reunification at an immediate goal was the one Cameroon, which was Tumaza, which was a mutation of a UPC that had been banned in British Southern Cameroon. And so this idea of reunification, the KNDP, its goal was what was known as ultimate reunification. And what does that mean? That meant that KNDP and Foncha wanted a situation where British Southern Cameroon would start by achieving its independence and then negotiate reunification with La République du Cameroon. They didn't want immediate reunification. This was evident during the September 1959 UN General Assembly, where Ndeli and Foncha, 1960 I'm sure, where Ndeli and Foncha could not agree as to the questions that will be put to British Southern Cameroonians. In that General Assembly, Ndeli emphasized that the two questions should be reunification versus integration with Nigeria, while Foncha insisted that the two questions should be integration with Nigeria versus independence. Unfortunately for Foncha, the forces in favor of the options proposed by Ndili were stronger than him, because at the UN, the British, the French, and then also supported by Nkrumah and a group of Afro-Asian countries in the United Nations, supported the idea that the two questions should be integration versus reunification.
Okay,
that was how
we're talking about the plebiscite. I want to start with the historians. We know that there was we're talking about background to the plebiscite. There was a monthly conference by acting commissioner Sydney Philippian. The inability of Southern Cameroon politicians to agree on a common political future for the territory led to the Southern Cameroons and then there was another, the UN, the Southern Cameroonians were at the UN February and October 1959, and then there was later a Manfi, and all of these, there was still no common ground on what to settle on.
Yeah, normally, the Southern Cameroon political class, beginning with the early 1950s and specifically in 1954, were not in one agreement concerning the issue of reunification. We are only talking about issue of reunification, emphasizing only on two key points, which is association and integration. Meanwhile, there were not only two key points, which were association and integration. We should not forget that in September 1958, another politician of Southern Cameroon called PM Kale had advocated and created a political party called Cameroon United Party, and his stand was not for association with Nigeria nor reunification with the Republic of Cameroon. His stand was independent between Southern Cameroon. That was the objective of PM Kale, and his political party was supported by other smaller political party or pressure groups like the Cameroon Communist Congress of Stephen Yente of Manfi. But unfortunately, on the part of the United Nations organization, we are calling UNO because British Cameroon, after Germany left Cameroon in 1916, Cameroon never belonged to Britain or France. Cameroon belonged to the League of Nations, Mandate B territory of the League of Nations. When the defunct league collapsed in 1939, with the creation of UNO in 1945, UNO took over from the mandated territory, which was changed to trustee territory. So it was UN that owned Cameroon, even by, that is why when the issue of disagreement between Foncha and Ndili for association or reunification failed, it was UN who took over. It was Britain handed to UN because Cameroon was a British trust territory. And we are talking about issue of independence, either by association or integration, because we are following Article 76B of the UN Charter. It stated very clear that trust territory should be prepared towards independence. So British Cameroon was prepared to independence following Article 76B of the UN Charter. But now the case of the case of KUP or PM Kale, the matter he could not continue. The third option was rejected by the United Nations organization. We know that on the 20th of September 1960, he advocated and even said that he would boycott the plebiscite election if the issue of third option is not taken into consideration. But unfortunately, only two options were tabled based on the decision of the United Nations organization because Cameroon was a UN trust territory. Why was the third option of PM Kale not accepted? There are many historical sources. Other historical sources that UN have sent a commission, an economic commission to then Southern Cameroon, to Northwest and Southwest. And the commission came back and said that the territory is not economically viable to sustain an independent state. Also, in the early 1960s, as my fellow colleague, Mr. Ndifo, is talking, in the early 1960s, Pan-Africanists and Kwame Nkrumah and host of others were advocating for a United States of Africa, a one Africa level, how we see in America today. And because of that, they were refusing that they should not balkanize. The Cameroon should not be divided to have an independent state while they are trying to form a united. So many independent African states in the United Nations organization denied that the issue of PM Kale should be wiped away because Cameroon should not be balkanized while they are trying to form a united state of Africa.
Okay. 11th of February, you are a journalist. When we talk about it, what comes to your mind? What do you think is actually happened on that day?
The truth is, Mr. Liu, I want to appreciate first of all the topic you came with because most of those who go marching tomorrow ask students who go march tomorrow what is 11 February. When we were children, we were marching in Bongo Square. We knew we needed to buy bread, buy sardine, buy chocolate and come back to the house. Most of us didn't know what was happening. The truth is, the 11th of February is a date that has been hidden from Cameroonians. It's a date that if my history teachers were good, I'm happy I'm on a panel with history teachers. it dates so far back in 1884 when Germany had Cameroon and the First World War broke out. 1914, 1916, because the French and the British could not agree on on the policy of the policy that he had in order to agree on who should condominion. Thank you. That's the word, because French and Britain could not agree on the condominion. That was in 1916. They could not agree on the condominion. It led to the partition in 1916. Now, because of the partition, Cameroon keeps growing, and on the 11th of February 1961, there is Britain who says we are tired. We can no longer take care of our territories. And there is La République that already gains independence. And of course, the UN steps in, like Gentle was saying, the UN steps in and gives two hard questions to Southern Cameroonians. Do you want to gain independence by joining the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or do you want to gain independence by joining La République du Cameroun? Hard questions. And that is why Fona Chirimbi of Bafut said to him, Nigeria is fire and La République is water, and that both persons have consequences, and that he preferred secession. I feel that, Mr. Leo, the 11th of February is a day where Southern Cameroonians, former British trusteeship, like he put it, UN trusteeship territories, decided to vote unanimously to join La République. Like the history teacher said, there were a lot of things that were put in place. First of all, we have the aspect that Ndeli advocated that Southern Cameroonians should go to Nigeria. There were a lot of reasons he advocated. One of the reasons, and the history teachers will agree with me, is that he was married to a Yoruba wife. And of course, many persons felt that, okay, this man is taking us to take us to his to his in-laws. And secondly, history tells us, the history teachers came. I'm not a history teacher, but secondly, history tells us that Ndeli was a very arrogant man and very proud man. And he said that if you don't vote for me, stones are going to vote for me. Whereas Foncha was down-to-earth person, and he came and took down-to-earth politics and told the people, my brothers, please, let's go and join our brothers. And far from that, Mr. Leo, today we have what we call more Anglophone, more Francophone. Today we have the Bakweres, the Bamoons. Yes.
The Bamoons, the brother is
that is it.
And then the sister.
We have the Bakwere man and the Douala man. They are one people. Now, so Foncha used these things to lobby, and he had a majority vote. That is out on the 11th of February 1961 on the plebiscite. Southern Cameroonians had their destiny in their hands, but without a third option. The UN kept them on a very tight corner. Where do you want to go to? But now there were two people. Ndeli wants them to go to Nigeria. Foncha wants them to come to La République. So, who now is the best politician? Because we are saying this, senatorial elections are closest. It is not he who wins. Mr. Liu, at times, politics is the way you present, Okay. People may not vote for you, Kum Leonard, because you are too handsome. No. What do you tell the people?
Okay.
Yes. Promise the people what you promise them. So I think that on the 11th of February, historically speaking, it is a day that Southern Cameroonians had two options. Either to go to Nigeria or to come to La République. And there were two people. Emmanuel Mela Lifafe Ndeli and Jongu Foncha. But because Jongu Foncha, I don't want to say that he was more intelligent. He was not more intelligent than Ndeli, but he understood the politics. He understood down to earth politics, just like
Which means that on the 11th of February we had two options: either we
go to Nigeria
from
or
perspective, or Cameroon.
That is it.
Prince Obosso, the history. What can you make of what our parents decided on this day, 11th of February? We are on the 10th today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kum Leonard.
So you and Prince.
We are princes.
Yes.
I want to make it very clear. I happen to be one of those privileged youths who happened to have met one-on-one with one of the principal actors as far as the plebiscite is concerned. I'm talking about late Pa N.N. Mbile. I was privileged to meet him alive as a junior student who was studying history in my ordinary levels. I was privileged to be handed a book from him called An Authentic Eyewitness Concerning the Plebiscite. So, Mr. Kum, what I'll be saying here today is the gospel truth from a horse's mouth. What you should understand is that the plebiscite of the 11th of February 1961 happens to be one of those significant events in the history of Cameroon, as far as the people of the British Southern Cameroon and the people of the British Northern Cameroon are concerned. As the fellow panelists have earlier mentioned, it was just about for the people to decide their fate as far as their independence is concerned. Do they want to join Nigeria
or La République?
Or do they want to join La République du Cameroun? We had actors, many of them, Foncha, Ndeli, and the rest. But these people were not the ones deciding. It was the people of British Northern Cameroon and the people of British Saudi Cameroon that had to decide.
Through voting.
Yeah, through ballot box, through voting. The other people you are mentioning here, this one is intelligent, this one is not intelligent. To me, the people took their destiny into their hands. And I want to say it here that the decision of the people of the British Southern Cameroon to join La République du Cameroun was and is and will still be the best choice.
I think let me just ask something. I'm sorry for interrupting.
You are concluding. You are saying that
you did not even vote.
No, excuse no.
Thinking that they did the best
He's
choice.
saying that our forefathers did the best choice. That is what he's saying.
It's his opinion, Leo.
It is his point. He has a right to his opinion.
I want we should we should know that we should have in mind that it was not all of Ndeli's. After Ndeli lost the 1961 election, they followed the tribal link to know, because there was Ndeli's fraction and there was Foncha's fraction.
Sure.
But after they did the counting, Foncha had a landslide victory. More than 53,000 and something voted for Foncha. Only about 900,000 voted for Mr. Ndeli. So Dr. Ndeli, it never ended like that, because sometimes Ndeli and the team never surrender. Ndeli and the team decided to go to the United Nations Organization to protest against the plebiscite results. Following the tribal league, there was Chief Bokwe Sakwe, who led the Mokonya of the Orokos. There was Chief Ajebe Sone, who led the Bakosis, the traditional was the one. And then there was Chief Adose, who lived in Kambe. And there was Chief Ndeli himself. And the brother, and they lead the Bakoris. They went to the United Nations Organization and said that since Southern Cameroon have a massive vote in favor of reunification, they should forget about the political and geographical factor. They should follow by tribally. Like each tribe they should come follow by tribes, because the Bafos of Kumba, they prefer association with Nigeria. The Bakwere of Boya, they prefer association with Nigeria. The Bakosis and then the Nkambe, they prefer association with Nigeria. But the United Nations Organization denied that option, that they cannot follow it that way. So we should not just conclude. Our forefathers like Ndeli agitated that they should follow the tribal way, so that
they should have a rethink on the result.
The result.
Yeah, Leonard, I just wanted to come back to this idea of, because the focus is really the 11th of February per se. I think we have exhausted the nitty-gritty about how we got to the 11th of February and all of that. The big questions, you might have noticed on the forum today that we had a heated debate with Professor Ngo, in which we were questioning the significance of the 11th of February. And the Leonard professor was trying to explain that Foncha, whom he claimed was the one who chose the date of 11th of February as the date of reunification of plebiscite, that he had explained why he chose the 11th of February. Well, Foncha might have explained, his reason might have been convincing to the Leonard professor, but what I'm saying is that as people of today and the youth of today, there is this confusion as to what the youth did on the 11th of February that warranted a whole historical date, a whole important date to be called Youth Day.
Mes chers jeunes compatriotes, au moment où je m'adresse à vous, je mesure les préoccupations légitimes qui sont les vôtres dans un contexte international marqué par une succession de crises dont les effets touchent la quasi-totalité des secteurs d'activité et n'épargnent aucun État. Lors de mon récent message à la nation, j'avais indiqué à cet égard que la vitesse d'exécution de certaines de nos politiques publiques se trouvait perturbée par ces chocs exogènes, mais aussi par la persistance de certaines menaces internes. Il est clair que cet environnement particulièrement contraignant a pu relativement ralentir le rythme que nous avons souhaité impulser à notre développement. Je le déplore autant que vous. Je puis toutefois vous assurer que je n'ai jamais perdu de vue les objectifs que nous nous sommes fixés ensemble. Bâtir une nation forte, une économie prospère, un pays fier, libre et uni dans sa diversité. C'est une mission sacrée. C'est une mission à laquelle j'entends continuer à consacrer toute mon énergie afin que chacun de vous ait l'opportunité de s'épanouir pleinement et de réaliser ses aspirations. Ces dernières années, nous avons déployé des efforts méritoires et mobilisé d'importantes ressources financières pour relever les nombreux défis auxquels nous étions confrontés au plan sécuritaire, sanitaire, humanitaire, économique et financier. Nous allons continuer dans cette voie, résolument. Je m'y engage. Mes chers jeunes, face aux crises multiples qui caractérisent le contexte actuel et aux difficultés qui en découlent, il est normal que, comme les jeunes du monde entier, vous puissiez vous sentir quelque peu désorientés. Il est normal que vous soyez tentés de vous laisser gagner par le doute, par la peur du lendemain. N'en faites rien. Ne baissez surtout pas les bras. Au contraire, armez-vous de votre intelligence, de votre sagesse, de votre détermination, de vos compétences et de vos talents pour relever les défis du présent et du futur. L'éducation, j'ai déjà eu l'occasion de vous le dire, est à cet égard incontournable. À quoi vous servirait-il d'être talentueux si vous n'êtes pas organisé? À quoi vous servirait-il d'être intelligent si vous vous découragez face à la première difficulté? Vous devez donc continuer à vous éduquer. Vous devez également continuer à cultiver le goût de la discipline et de l'effort, tout en vous laissant guider par les vertus de la créativité et de l'audace. Pour ma part, je continuerai à consentir les efforts nécessaires pour créer avec le gouvernement et les autres partenaires sociaux un environnement propice à votre éducation, mais aussi à votre intégration professionnelle et à votre plein épanouissement. À cet effet, j'accorderai, comme par le passé, la priorité au développement de notre système éducatif, tout en mettant davantage l'accent sur la professionnalisation. Ainsi que vous pouvez le constater, notre cadre scolaire et universitaire ne cesse de se densifier avec la création de nouveaux établissements d'enseignement primaire, secondaire et supérieur. En marge du système éducatif classique, le gouvernement a créé des centres de formation professionnelle d'excellence dans plusieurs localités de notre pays. Leur mise en place va se poursuivre et s'étendra sur l'ensemble du territoire national. Un vaste programme de transformation des SAR-SM en centre de formation au métier a été lancé avec l'opérationnalisation du centre de Nkonsamba. Tous ces efforts visent à vous assurer la meilleure formation possible afin de vous rendre compétitif et capable non seulement de saisir les opportunités d'emploi qui s'offrent à vous, tant au niveau local qu'international, mais surtout de devenir de véritables auto-entrepreneurs. Mes chers jeunes compatriotes, dans le souci de favoriser votre insertion dans le marché de l'emploi, l'État mène des actions qui visent à promouvoir la culture entrepreneuriale nécessaire à l'autonomisation de la population jeune. C'est le sens du plan triennal spécial jeune que j'ai prescrit en 2016. Ce mécanisme a déjà permis de financer plus de 11 000 projets en faveur des jeunes et générer près de 35 000 emplois directs pour un coût global d'environ 20 milliards de francs CFA. Pour donner une impulsion à ce dispositif, j'ai instruit le gouvernement d'accélérer la mise sur pied du fonds de garantie aux jeunes entrepreneurs en y intégrant un guichet spécial dédié au financement des projets des jeunes de la diaspora camerounaise. Dans ma récente adresse à la nation, j'ai annoncé le démarrage ou la poursuite de nombreux projets dans divers secteurs, notamment les infrastructures, l'énergie, les mines. Il s'agit là des niches d'emploi que je vous invite à exploiter. Nous allons résolument poursuivre nos efforts en faveur de la relance et de la diversification de notre économie, ce qui ne manquera pas de créer de nouvelles opportunités d'emploi pour notre jeunesse. Mais je me dois de le rappeler, il est évident que ni l'État, ni les entreprises existantes du secteur privé ne peuvent à eux seuls absorber le volume de jeunes issus chaque année du système éducatif classique. C'est pour cette raison que je vous demande, une fois de plus, de vous tourner également vers l'auto-emploi en saisissant les opportunités qui s'offrent à vous dans les domaines tels que l'agriculture, l'artisanat ou l'économie numérique. C'est assurément l'une des voies les plus indiquées pour résorber le chômage des jeunes. Mes chers jeunes compatriotes, en dépit d'un contexte difficile, l'État fait tout ce qui est en son pouvoir pour créer les conditions d'une meilleure insertion socio-professionnelle de notre jeunesse. Certes, il est nécessaire d'intensifier nos efforts pour qu'une masse significative de jeunes accède au monde de l'emploi. Nous sommes déterminés à atteindre ce but et nous y parviendrons. Je vous invite donc à ne pas céder au découragement qui pousse certains d'entre vous sur des chemins périlleux de l'immigration clandestine ou vers le mirage de solutions faciles qui ne conduisent qu'à des impasses. De même, je vous exhorte à vous détourner des comportements déviants qui prennent de l'ampleur dans notre société. C'est malheureusement le cas en milieu scolaire où l'incivisme, la consommation des stupéfiants, les agressions diverses et bien d'autres dérives sont de plus en plus récurrents. De tels agissements sont à proscrire car ils ne peuvent vous profiter. Il faut également éviter de céder à la tentation de chercher refuge dans le monde virtuel avec l'usage abusif d'Internet et des plateformes numériques, au risque de vous couper des réalités. Conscient de ces dangers, j'ai prescrit au gouvernement d'élaborer une charte visant à garantir la protection des enfants sur Internet dans notre pays. Mes chers jeunes compatriotes, je tiens cependant à vous encourager à vivre au rythme de votre temps et à tirer avantage du développement numérique et technologique pour améliorer dans le monde réel vos conditions de vie et celles de vos compatriotes. Je vous demande de ne pas désespérer de votre pays et d'avoir foi en l'avenir. Les difficultés existeront toujours dans la vie des êtres humains, mais elles sont faites pour être affrontées avec courage et détermination. Je serai toujours à vos côtés dans ce combat salutaire, celui de la réalisation de vos aspirations au progrès et à la modernité. C'est un combat que nous ne pouvons pas envisager de perdre. Je sais pouvoir compter sur vous. Une joyeuse fête de la jeunesse. Compatriotes.
My dear young compatriots,
Au moment où je m'adresse à vous,
as I speak to you,
je mesure les
I fathom your
qui sont les
legitimate concerns in a global context. marked by a series of crises affecting virtually all sectors of activity and it.
In
this regard, I pointed out in my recent message to the nation that such exogenous shocks as well as lingering internal threats are disrupting the pace of implementation of some of our public policies. It is clear that such a particularly challenging context has relatively slowed down the desired pace of our development, a situation which we all deplore. However, I can assure you that I have never lost sight of the goals we set together, those of building a strong nation, a prosperous economy, and a country that is proud, free and united in its diversity. It is a bounden duty, a duty to which I will continue to devote all my energy to ensure that each of you has the opportunity to develop your full potential and meet your aspirations. In recent years, we made laudable efforts and mobilized substantial financial resources to address the many security, health, humanitarian, economic, and financial challenges facing us. We will resolutely continue on the same path. Such is my pledge. My dear young compatriots, faced with the multiple crises characterizing the current context and of the ensuing challenges, it is normal that just like youth worldwide, you may feel somewhat confused. It is normal that you may be tempted to yield to doubt and fear about the future. You should not. Most of all, do not give up. Rather, utilize your intelligence, your wisdom, your resolve, your skills and talents to rise to the current and future challenges. In this regard, as I told you before, education is inevitable. How useful would your talent be if you are not organized? How useful would your intelligence be if you get discouraged by the first difficulty? You should therefore continue getting educated. You should also continue nurturing the love for discipline and hard work while allowing yourself to be guided by the virtues of creativity and audacity. For my part, I will continue making the requisite efforts to create, together with the government and other social partners, an environment conducive to your education, as well as your education as your professional integration and development of your full potential. To that end, I will, as in the past, prioritize the development of our educational system with further emphasis on professionalization. As you can notice, our school and university map has continued to expand with the setting up of new primary and secondary schools and universities. Beside the traditional educational system, the government has set up vocational training centers of excellence in several localities in our country and will continue to establish them nationwide. An extensive program to upgrade rural artisan and home economic centers to vocational training centers has been launched with the operationalization of the Kongsamba Center. These efforts are all geared towards providing you with the best possible training to make you competitive and capable not only of seizing the job opportunities available locally and internationally, but also of becoming veritable self-employed entrepreneurs. My dear young compatriots, in a bid to foster your integration into the job market, the state is taking action to promote the requisite entrepreneurial culture for youth empowerment. That is why I prescribed the special 3-year youth plan in 2016. This plan has already enabled the financing of over 11,000 youth projects and generated close to 35,000 direct jobs for an overall cost of approximately 20 billion CFA francs. To boost this plan, I have instructed the government to fast-track the creation of a guarantee fund for young entrepreneurs with a special window for the financing projects promoted by youth of the Cameroonian diaspora. In my recent message to the nation, I announced the start or continuation of numerous projects in various sectors, notably infrastructure, energy, and mining. These are employment niches that I am inviting you to take advantage of. We will resolutely pursue our efforts to revitalize and diversify our economy, which will certainly create new job opportunities for our youth. I must, however, recall that either the state nor existing private sector enterprises alone can employ all the young people graduating from the traditional educational system each year. That is why, once again, I am urging you to embrace self-employment by taking advantage of the opportunities available in various areas as agriculture, handicraft, and digital economy. This is definitely one of the most effective ways of reducing youth unemployment. My dear young compatriots, despite the challenging context, the government is doing its utmost to create conditions conducive to better socio-professional integration of our youth. We certainly need to step up our efforts to get a large number of young people into the workforce. We are committed to achieving this goal. It will be achieved. Therefore, I urge you not to yield to despair, which drives some of you to the perilous path of illegal immigration or the illusion of easy solutions that only lead to a dead end. I also urge you to shun deviant behaviors which are becoming rife in our society. Regrettably, such is the case in schools, where incivility, substance abuse, assault, and many other excesses are increasingly becoming commonplace. Such behaviors should be prohibited as they do not serve your best interest. You should also resist the temptation to seek refuge in the virtual world through misuse of the internet and digital platforms, with the risk of losing touch with reality. Aware of these threats, I have instructed the government to draw up a charter to ensure the protection of children on the internet in our country. My dear young compatriots, I encourage you, however, to keep up with the times and use digital and technological advancements to improve your living conditions and those of your fellow citizens in the real world. I urge you not to lose hope in your country and to have confidence in the future. Challenges will always be a part of human life, but they must be faced with courage and determination. I will always stand by you in this salutary battle, that of meeting your aspirations for progress and modernity. We cannot afford to lose this battle. I know I can count on you. You can count on me. I wish you all a happy Youth Day.
Une joyeuse fête de la jeunesse.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime on My Media Prime, and we were just listening to the head of state address to the youth. His Excellency President Paul Biya was talking to the youth, raising some of the expectations he has for the young people in Cameroon. Also trying to tell us what he has instructed the nation to do as far as young Cameroonians are concerned. Prof, for Richard, your first assessment on what the president has for young Cameroonians today?
Yes, Leonard, I must be honest to say that if I was a young Cameroonian, I would feel a little disappointed with the president's speech today. When we have a retrospective look at what he said last year, one would be expecting that he was going to take from what he said last year to build on that, to tell us that this is what I promised last year, this is how far I have gone, and this is what is left for us to achieve this year, and this is what we are planning to get to that level. Unfortunately, the president acted as if he didn't make any promises last year. And even when he made allusion to some of the things he said last year, he just repeated the same things he said without telling us anything concrete as to what he was able to achieve from what he said last year. And then he came up with other new empty promises. I call them empty promises because you cannot make a set of promises last year, and then this year, without any explanation as to how far you have executed the promises that you made last year, you come up again with another rule, another set of promises. As a matter of fact, listening to the head of state, one goes away with the impression that he is just doing this for the sake of doing it. He's just making the speech because he has to make a speech. I do not think that, in my humble opinion, the head of state has anything concrete in his back to offer to the young Cameroonians.
Okay. Prince Joel, you listened to the head of state there. Were you expecting some groundbreaking announcements that did not come, or you think that the president was aptly in his posture and contextual to what is happening in Cameroon today?
I want to pick up from what Prof said sincerely. First of all, to say that it's a tradition that the president addresses the youth every 10th of February and addresses the nation on the 31st. So it was a tradition. But I took pains to write some of what the head of state said. Truth be told, Mr. Leo, I did not actually hear much of what the people were expecting. Two things caught my attention. The President of the Republic acknowledged the fact that there is a crisis that is affecting the country, Cameroon, and that there is a crisis that is affecting the whole world, and that financial resources have been put in place to see that this crisis have been settled. And it's a shame that the president himself acknowledges that our several universities graduate so many students, and the president said that they shouldn't count much on government jobs and that they should count on agriculture. It's a shame, Mr. Liu. It's a shame because I'm one of those who have always felt that let us tighten the conditions through which students go to university. So much so that if at the end of the day, instead of graduating 10,000 students, 5,000 students, why not graduate 100 and give them jobs? Because the head of state said it very clean and clear that people should not count on the government for work. I want to feel that Cameroonians, youths that I am, were expecting something more concrete from the president. We're expecting something that should inspire us. We're expecting something that should move like that should ignite us to work better. But if you listen to the head of state today, sincerely, Mr. Liu, I didn't actually feel the president. I was expecting the president tell the youth that we are making the ground level. For instance, senatorial elections are coming up in March, that we're going to bring in more youth. We're expecting to hear that. But of course, if you look at most of those who are going to become senators, it's of course that it is already those who are already there who are renewing their mandates, or the same old faces that are some persons who are ministers already that are coming up. So I think that Mr. Liu, it wasn't something to be taken with much interest, because truth be told, I didn't actually get what I wanted to. Personally speaking, as a youth, I wanted more from the head of state, but I want to say that to an extent I was so much disappointed in what the head of state said, because Cameroon and the youth constitute, if one way to say, I think more than 75% of the population of Cameroon. But if you listen to the head of state today, he was talking about the youth to be disciplined and hard work. Of course, the youth in Cameroon have always been very disciplined. They have always been very hardworking, but a majority of those who have struggled to enter into prestigious institutions like ENAM, ERIC, maybe who've not succeeded, had to go the other way. When you go and do a vox pop around the streets in Douala, go to Aqua, go even to Rond-Point, go to Rue de la Joie, and you ask most of those youths there, or you mean most of the Bayragdas, they'll tell you most of those guys are first degree holders. Some maybe have master's degree. But when you listen to the head of state, he told them, don't count much of the state. Embrace, embrace agriculture.
Yes, but what do you expect? The state can only take what they can. In other countries, the state does not employ the majority of the people. Why? What is wrong in embracing agriculture?
The issue is, Mr. Liu, the system in Cameroon, the educational system in Cameroon.
Are you saying that if you admit president of the republic today, you absorb the majority of the young people?
No, the issue is, if I were to be, I said something before, that I'm going to tighten conditions to enter the university. You were in JMC. I think that in your days, for you to enter into JMC, they needed a minimum of 9-10 points.
10 points at least.
10 points at least. But today, they said because of the crisis, 2 points. There are people who have 2 easy, go do JMC. And we have those things that are happening. So I think that if I were to be the president, I'm going to tighten conditions for competitive exams once. Someone says, once you enter, once you succeed, you even enter the university. I remember very well that when I had my advanced level, we used to have a guy who was teaching on the advanced. He had his advanced level by then. I told my grandmother I wanted to go to the university. She told me no. She felt that the guy who was teaching was employed by the state. So I think that it's time that we tighten conditions for those who go to the university. I think that it's time we tighten conditions for those who enter competitive exams. Because when you come and tell youths today that they should embrace agriculture, I think that it wasn't, I'm speaking for myself as a youth, that the speech wasn't too tactical. The speech did not meet much of the aspirations of the youth.
Yes, the President of the Republic says that the youth should not only depend on their talent, but they should be very organized, because if you have talents without the spirit of organization, you may not go too far. And that they should also be, you may have talent, but you need to persevere, committed, and also be very disciplined and creative.
Yeah, I think there are aspects of from the head of state speech that are positive. I will first talk, he laid a lot of emphasis about the issue of entrepreneurship, which is an aspect that is helping to create employment for many youths, as we know. I think he also talked about the issue of discipline and organized. Youth to be well organized, which is a very positive aspect that as youth, you need to discipline yourself. You will not maybe involve in illegal issue because you are unemployed. You have people that they start from nothing and today they are something. I think when you go to Nigeria, for example, many people who are working in government, people consider are poor people. So I think I'm going to link it back to what he said, that we should not depend only on the state. I think as youth, if the state fail you, if you want a job to work with the government and they fail you, you will not fail yourself and fail your family because the state fail you. You need to work on, put in place an initiative that can help you. Although in Cameroon here sometimes it becomes a problem because we have youth that they have put in place a startup, a business, but the very government frustrate them with high taxes. We have situations like in Boyada, people manage call-box and other things beside the road, and then they say they want the road to be open and they destroy, and then it becomes so frustrating. I think if His Excellency is talking about the issue of youth to organize themselves, to create jobs for themselves, they should also discuss with government the issue of taxes and the policy put in place by the government to favor the youth. Today in Cameroon, for example, we talk about the issue. Today in Cameroon, we don't know a defined years for retirement for some of these politicians, but we know a defined year to stop writing concours for those who might be interested to write ENS, to write INAM, to write other institutions. When once you are 33 years, you don't venture again. You are out of place. 27 advanced level. 27 advanced level, 32 first degree. So those are, but when it comes to issue of retirement, we don't have a defined year for retirement. Not only for politicians, we have people who are working in government that they are far more, even the President Papa himself, when he became the president in November 1982, he was 49 years old. In the context of Cameroon, we are calling that one youthful age. So in the political domain also, we also cried. We keep crying that the government in Cameroon should put in place an organogram for youth to become involved in politics. You are talking about senatorial election. We are talking about municipal election. We are talking about even presidential election. The then junta, the military junta of Burkina Faso, is just 34 years. Traoré, the youngest president in the world, 34 years. Although nobody put him there, but we are saying that youth should, the government in Cameroon should put an organogram to include youth to become involved in politics. Many people have said, repeated on the platform that when they were growing up, they had in mind that youth are the leader of tomorrow. But in Cameroon, youth remain the followers of today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow. So I think I'm trying to bring out the positive and the negative aspect. But for the issue of entrepreneurship, I'm happy with that. And the head of state also emphasized the issue of youth not going abroad. There are people who are struggling to go abroad, even passing through Mexico, passing through the dreaded desert of Morocco and Libya, because they believe that the greener pastures are abroad and not in Cameroon. Yeah. We should be honest to ourselves. Okay. And the government itself, they should know that they should not. They have a system that is destroying the youth.
Obosso, Pupu,
so it's okay. So it's okay.
You listen there to the head of state of Cameroon, President Paul Biya. Would you say you're very satisfied with that outing? And what caught your attention, especially with the expectations of the youth in Cameroon today?
Thank you once more again, Leonard. I must say I'm very impressed with the address of the President of the Republic to the youth. Once more, I can say bravo, 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 Mr. President. For once, the father has proven to his children that he is aware of what is going on, and he continues to encourage us. And if you look at the address this evening, the President talked about education and vocational training. You know, we of the Frankist movement, we envisage to take power only after President Paul Biya. And within our philosophy, we have what we call the Jewish phenomenon. What do I mean by this? It means that going to the university and having a degree is not enough. You must equally have a skill that accompanies that degree. So much so that if your degree cannot grant you a white-collar job, your skills can make you put bread on your table. That is what we call the Jewish phenomenon. And the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, is in line with the vision of the Frankist movement, because he talked about education and the setting up of vocational training centers. Again, the President of the Republic, in his brilliant speech this evening, talked about the entrepreneurial culture. That is why we of the Frankist movement, we envisage that after President Biya, an entrepreneur like Frank Emmanuel Olivier Biya should take over the helm of the state. Because we need an entrepreneur, somebody who has proven, away from public treasury, away from Cameroon budget, to make life for himself. And Frank Biya is one of those youths that have demonstrated with all sense of humor to be a successful business tycoon. So if we have somebody like that at the helm of the state, then Cameroon, we are sure to create what we call an entrepreneurial ecosystem. What do I mean by this? It means that we create a system where we encourage entrepreneurship. How? We make sure we have entrepreneurial incubators, business incubators that can accompany projects, youth projects, sponsor these projects, organize things like entrepreneurship show, organize things like entrepreneurship grants, you know, some sort of loans to encourage youth get into entrepreneurship. So we of the Frankist movement, we are very happy this evening because the aspirations of the head of state is just reflecting what we intend to do when we take power with Frank Emmanuel Olivier Biya at the helm of the state. The president talked about agriculture. This is wonderful. In our observatory within the Frankist movement, agriculture is one of those pivotal activities that will be encouraging within the youth circumference. What do I mean by this? What we should understand here is that future millionaires will not be coming from the oil and gas sector. Future millionaires of this country will not be coming from telecommunications. The future millionaires and the billionaires will be coming from the agricultural sector. Because not everybody drinks gas. Not everybody smokes petrol. But everybody eats food. So if we get into agriculture massively, then I want to believe that we are going to have an independent financial youth that are able to take their own destiny into their very own hands. The President of the Republic talked about not to yield to despair and get into illegal immigration. This again falls in line with the vision of the Frankist movement. You know, within the Frankist movement, we have what we call the Cameroonianization department that will be created within the Ministry of External Relations. This Cameroonianization department, what will be the job is to make sure the diaspora has a role to play. Because when you listen to the President of the Republic, he talked about encouraging projects of the diasporan youth. It falls in line with what we of the Frankists, we think about Cameroonizing the diaspora, bringing back all the Cameroonians who are abroad to
Prince,
come back to Cameroon.
Prince,
yes.
Obosso, yeah, Prof, the President of the Republic is very optimistic. He expects the youth to actually get up and take their position as leaders of tomorrow. But when you look around, are there clear signs that those who are at the helm of issues really want to hand over power to the youth?
Mr. Liu, just before I get to your question, permit me just mention something that has been said by the previous panelists, which is very important that we address, especially on this issue of unemployment. I want to differ with my colleague on the other side that tightening conditions into the university is absolutely not the right way to go in terms of fighting unemployment. Otherwise, you're going to rather reduce the level of education in the society, which would not be the best. I think the very first thing that the government should do, which they are not doing, you see, the president talked about enhancing the skills of young people. But when you look at our educational sector, does our educational sector really prepare students for the job market? Do they really improve the skills of students? Which is what the President of the Republic should be looking at. Our educational system needs a complete overhaul. What students are learning in school have completely no relevance to what they find in the real world. There is a mismatch between what students learn in school and what they find in the real world. Secondly, another effective way to create jobs is to create the enabling environment for jobs to be created automatically. Yes, it is true, like the president said, young people should not rely on the encourage businesses by cutting taxes. Look, every new business that wants to set up and which can employ thousands or even hundreds of thousands of young people, the government jumps in and imposes very high taxes, scare these businesses, and sometimes these businesses run into closure. And when they close down, a lot of young people go unemployed. So that is a very serious issue there that the government need to address if they really want to create this enabling environment for jobs to be created for young people. Now, coming to your question, do we have a system that allows for young people to take over from the old? I think that is a question that has an obvious answer. A big no. You just have to look at the presidency itself to understand the answer to that question. We have a president that is in his 90s and has no appetite or no thought in his mind to even quit power. When you go down to the second in command, you look at the president of the Senate. As a matter of fact, with all due respect to him, he's a walking corpse. He's finished. Move down to the president, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, he's completely finished.
How would you describe a human being like that?
When I say he's a walking corpse, I'm sorry if I use that word, but that is the best way I can find to explain. I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Liu, but that is the only way I can explain.
Prime Art takes exception.
I understand, Mr. Liu. I understand quite well.
Yes.
But that is just to tell you that
old is weak. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just to tell you that he has outlived his usefulness, if I may put it that way. Yeah. He has outlived his usefulness.
But that's what you are saying. But he's voted by his peers. Yeah.
No, he's not voted by his peers. By which peers? We understand how all this thing works, Mr. Liu. We understand that all this drama is being done behind the scene, and in fact, it is the decision of the President of the Republic for who becomes the Speaker of the National Assembly or who becomes the President of the Senate. We know how all this drama is being played. But to tell you the truth, we are being run by people who are octogenarian, people who should now be having a well-deserved rest and give room for young people to take. I cannot remember when growing up, they kept telling us we are the leaders of tomorrow. Today I'm 45 years old and I'm still looking up to be leaders of tomorrow. It is truly sad, Mr. Leo, and you will still find the people who are in their 30s that will come up to be around 40 and find these same old people leading us, and then the president will come and talk about young people taking over. Yeah, when will they take over?
Yes, Prince Obosso is not quite comfortable with what you're saying.
I'm not very comfortable with the choice of words of my fellow panelist. It's true he has he said he's sorry, but the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, on the 10th of February, this same day, 2 years ago, 2021, talked about generational transition. What does that mean? It means that while the old are preparing to leave the stage, the youth should be preparing to take over. And that is the logic why the Frankist movement is there. And now the President of the Republic has addressed us as intelligent youths, youths that have wisdom. And when you come and use sarcastic statements like this one, you are just trying to push him, take back those qualities that he has given us. I think that some of us are intelligent enough, some of us have enough wisdom, some of us are skillful enough to organize ourselves. That is what the president has said. Organize yourself. That you can be skillful, but if you are not organized, you will not have anything at the end of the day. That is why we, the youths of Cameroon, we have decided to take upon ourselves, to organize ourselves with our intelligence, with our skills, to prepare after President Paul Biya what next. That is why we have been able to identify a youth that we think understands power, a youth that we think understands the problem of the people, of the youths of Cameroon, a youth that we think remains an exemplary product of our generation. And that youth is nobody other than Frank Emmanuel Olivier Biya. So I think that there is hope for the Cameroonian youths. We just need to align with the Frankist movement, organize ourselves, and prepare to take over the political leadership of this country.
Okay, yes.
Let me just add something, Mr. Luke.
You want to add to what he just said?
Yes,
okay.
I think his Frankist movement is an excellent initiative that most Cameroonians will applaud.
It's in a political party.
Yeah. Normally, it's not a political party, but it's an excellent initiative that most Cameroonians, especially youth, will applaud. Yes, let me
no survey has been carried on to
let me
affirm that.
But I think it's an excellent initiative. From my own perspective, I applaud the initiative, and I wish him the best. And it is his democratic right.
Thank you very much.
That he should be elected as president come 2025. And we Cameroonians, we also wish that he should not come and maintain the same singers, the same dancers, and the same drummers. That's why we wish, because we have politicians that have seen the same thing, and only to talking what we want to hear, and when they come up, they change. And I also wish, because if that 2025 Frankist movement, Frank Biya succeeded to become the number 3rd president, because he is independent like Cameroon, independent in 1960 to date. Cameroon had only 2 presidents, while Nigeria had around 14 to 15 president. So we wish that Frank Biya, if he's coming to become the 3rd president, it comes 2025, he should, because Mr. Lowe, we are looking, I will look from my own perspective historically here, because if Frank comes to maintain this very status quo, Cameroonians will start crying, because it has become a tradition that in most former French African colonies, including Cameroon, including Chad, including Gabon, most of their sons who take over, the father always like to maintain the status quo. It's the same thing Ali Bongo.
But Ali Bongo has changed a lot. Yeah, it's even taking Gabon towards the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I'm not like the father was also doing well. The father was doing. I'm not like economy.
I'm not saying that he's economically is doing well, but I'm saying that he has moved a lot from what his father was doing.
Yeah. The father.
The same like Muhammad Debi, the former, the son of former late Debi. The same like this man who is also changing. So we just wish. I'm happy for that initiative, but we want a change in Cameroon. That is the bitter truth. We need change in Cameroon from different perspectives. But I would land by saying that, Mr. Leonard, the youth of Cameroon, generally the youth of Cameroon, we need to sit behind a youth that will change our. That's why I'm happy with this man. I'm not happy with Ambia because he's from the son of the president, but because he's a youth and he should deliver. If he succeeded, he should deliver. We want any person who can help Cameroon. Yeah, but we are in the state. The Cameroon is the state that we are slowly dying.
But Prince Joel, the president of the republic has said that I have asked my government to do this for the youth. I've asked this and that. We understand that some years back, when there was the emergency plan, there was an emergency plan for the nation. 3 years emergency plan. There was also an emergency youth plan. We don't really know what has become of it. He has announced another one today. But the problem is the clarity, the capacity for young people to take benefits of what the government is making available. How easy it is for a young Cameroonian to benefit from what the government or the president is announcing to young people today?
You know, Mr. Leo, the truth is, seemingly, I've always said that President Paul Biya may have very juicy and seductive plans for Cameroonians. The problem has been applicability. Applicability because many a time he is not there to follow up. I have the privilege to go to GBH's Cambe. It's one of the best edifices talking about infrastructure in Cameroon. This is because Aijo himself went there to supervise the construction. He saw guys molding blocks. I think that even BGS, yeah, Moliko, the president at one time, students went on strike and the president had to go there and find out what was not going on right. I think that the president of the republic has a lot of good plans. The problem has always been applicability. The truth is, Mr. Leo, most of the youth, those I've spoken with, have the impression that in Cameroon now there is this syndrome of man no man. Many of those who have the opportunity to enter ENAM, of course, we are not saying that the bribe they are willing to enter ENAM, but most of those who enter into ENAM, local Cameroonians feel that for you to get into ENAM, you need to have a godfather somewhere, or you need to have an envelope that you should give somebody somewhere. The president has a lot of juicy programs. I just think that the problem is applicability. How does the president apply? I think that first of all, seemingly the president, let's be honest, Mr. Liu, one of the reasons in history, in advanced level, they told us, there was a topic in history, Cameroon history, they told us why Biya's ascension to power was greeted with a lot of euphoria. Of course, one of the reasons was because Biya was handsome, young, and another reason was the fact that he was bilingual. Another reason is that they saw in Paul Biya a guy who was very dynamic and free to go, unlike his predecessor Aijo. So that's why I think that Mr. Leo, the president of the republic, has a lot of juicy plans. But let us be honest. Age is one thing you cannot fight against. We have seen several situations where the head of state has seemingly proven that he is tired. It's a fact. During the American summit, we saw the head of state calling his secretary, Ngongo, to say that il y a les gens importants dans la salle. Est-ce que je dois parler? He already tells you because he was sitting and seeing them. Now, if you're calling your secretary to ask whether there are important people in the house, it's already an indication that he is tired. And I feel that this plan is just one of the so many plans. Cameroon is one of those countries in the world that is run by slogans. We have Cameroon of great ambitions, that is Cameroon, le Cameroun de grandes ambitions. We have had Vision 2035. Mr. Leo, before I was born, I read in history, in fact, I didn't meet the president, but I read in history that on the 6th of November 1982, President Paul Biya took over power. That was because Aijo resigned on the 4th of November 1982. I'm still seeing him. If I were to look at the Vision 2035, Mr. Lo, by 2035, I'm an old man. It means that the president is not targeting me. He's targeting my son. Or he's targeting my daughter, not me. This is 2022. or 2023. So if we're to look at 2035, we're talking about 12 years from now, I'm sure, gentle. 12 years from now. 12 years from now, I'll not be me. I would have been old. And of course, if we are talking about an emerging, not emerged, because it's language, emerging, not emerged economy, we're talking about emerging means it is growing.
Yeah.
So I think that, Mr. Leo, the president has brought a lot of ideas, and one of the things that the president said is the fact that he has discouraged illegal migration. Of course, we have seen the head of state assisted most of Cameroonians who went to the diaspora through illegal means to come back to the country. But I remember that one of my geography teachers was teaching us about the push and the pull factors. What are the things that push people to leave a country? Of course, it's unemployment. There are a lot of things. Now, what are the pull factors? I think that instead of the head of state to be discouraging people who go out of the country illegally, the head of state should be creating an environment that is clear to keep the people in the country.
Okay.
That's what I think.
No, but how do we expect the youth, if if we think that the president may not have met your expectations from what you've just said today, and maybe those who are watching us, what, according to you, should be the posture of the young people if they really desire a change away from what the president just said today?
Yes, of course, Leonard. I think the young people have a responsibility to take power. They say that power is not given, power is taken, power is seized. It is unfortunate that I may find myself in a position where I may be blaming the young people for being docile, for being inactive, for being carefree, and rightly, as the head of state rightly put it, for wanting the easy way out. You see, having lived in the United States myself, I feel that it is not conversation and talk about girls at Moliko and then move from there, land on social media and start castigating politicians and start blasting politicians. That is not the way to go. I must also applaud the initiative of some very innovative young people, especially in the city of Boya, where I am, who are really taking up some very great initiative and are really doing a lot for themselves without expecting the government to do all of this for them. We have prominent young people in Boya, I don't want to be citing names, who have made it, I can say made it on their own accord, on their own effort. They have put in a lot of effort. They have done a lot to do some startups, businesses, entrepreneurs in Boya, and I'm sure in other towns in Cameroon. But there are very few of these young people who have actually taken up this kind of initiative, and we are instead of us just sitting out there and blaming the government for not doing enough for them, they can take up initiative and start doing something to help themselves.
Just like
do
the
not only
movement.
do not only find.
We have taken initiative.
Let me just ask something to you, Mr. Joe. I will set an example. Let me just say example. Example, I'm a teacher in the private sector. We had we are talking about university graduates who graduate and they are unemployed. In each university, probably are talking about professional. In university, although they are not, yes, they are embrace agriculture as well. In university, there are faculty in the university. I have teachers training. There is curriculum studies and teaching where they train you as teacher. If you happen to write ENS and you don't succeed, what do? So you sit and fail under because the state have not employed you, become an armed robber, you become to misbehave. If you have the talent as a teacher, what do? I'm saying example, Mr. Leonard, we decided some 6 months ago to create an association. We are working that it should be legalized, known as UTAS, Young Teachers Association. What is the goal of Young Teachers Association? Any young man who is a graduate from university who wants to involve in teaching, Whether we are being in the field, we can mentor the person. We as teachers, what are we doing as teaching is evolving, as time is changing, teaching is evolving, we're also involved with teachers. How can a teacher be holding chalk? Apart from holding chalk, how can a teacher survive? We have seminars, we have meetings. For example, on the 26th of this February 26th, we are having a meeting, you're having a meeting in Bonaberi, that is Littora. So we have meeting. In this meeting, we try to skill young ones who are still growing into the teaching field. We try to update them. What can you do as a teacher, as an entrepreneur? What can you do as a teacher? Must you be holding more chalk and waiting for end of month? How can you do to survive? So I think I'm bringing this particular point because we are talking about graduate. If you graduate from the university, because Cameroonian, I cannot blame, sometimes it's the system. Cameroonian had a mindset of working with the government. Working with the government, once you don't work with the government, you just say, it's the back. No. There are people, as my fellow colleagues, talking that they are not working with government, but they are doing excellently well. Dangote in Nigeria is not a government, it's not a civil servant. We must not have that mindset. So what are we saying? As youth, I'm still going back to the issue of organization. Once there's a will, there's a way. When once you have the will, there's a way. If politics fail you, if government fail you, will you fail your family or fail yourself because they have? No. You need to sit up. You can always start from somewhere. I have one of my a young teacher in one of our UTAS Young Teacher Association. It's a platform that is open for all teachers, be it government or public sector. We have a WhatsApp group, more than 300 to 400 teachers. There's a link. We join you there. We skill you on her. There's one of our teacher, one of our young teacher. He is teaching and he's selling chips. She's teaching and she holds chips and other granules. When she goes to the class, after she don't buy it. And then it can help her for her transport, to moving from one place to another. We must be able to have that mindset to generate income. And it's better that you do that than to involve in illegal activities. Don't go to prison and blame the government of Cameroon. Don't become a criminal and blame the government of Cameroon. Yes, they are failure. What are you doing to help yourself and your family?
How do we, as young people, also take the responsibility and not always wait on somebody to pave the way for us?
Yes, I will say this. It is time for us to come out from the ABC model. Accusing, blaming, and complaining.
Okay, complaining, yeah.
Yeah. The President of the Republic, His Excellency President Pobia, once more, I say bravo. Because he just mentioned, take your destiny into your hands, see how you can be self-employed. The President himself, the wise man of Africa, has realized that entrepreneurship is the way forward. And if we, the youth, we have to be fine tomorrow, then we have to take the advice of this, our father of the nation, that he has given us this evening. We should get into entrepreneurship. He mentioned he has sponsored over 11,000 youth diasporan projects, and over 35 jobs have been created. I mean, if we continue in this perspective, we the youth trying to create something. I lecture entrepreneurship in some university institutes in Douala and Boya. So it is a very, very sensitive aspect if we, the youth, must survive. And the president mentioned that we should organize ourselves. It's not time to get angry. It's not time to exercise anger and migrate illegally through the high sea and die and blame the government. Even in the United States of America, the highest employer is not the government. It is small and medium-sized enterprises. The US government does not play with startups, because startups constitute more than 70% of the US economy. And we just have to replicate that. And to replicate that, we need a vision bearer who is an entrepreneur. That is why we of the Frankist movement, we propagate Frambia. Because that is a youth who refused to be a civil servant. That is a youth who had the possibility to get into ENAM. And he said, no, I will not go to ENAM. I will not become director of taxes, director of treasury or custom, or minister of finance. I'm not interested in all those things. Papa, I want to go into entrepreneurship. I want to go into business. And that is why some of us have a lot of admiration for this young man. And we think that he stands a better position to lead this country only after President Paul Biya. So,
okay.
yeah.
Prince Joel, you are a journalist. You've seen what the young people in Cameroon have been doing. What would you tell them to take out of what the president has said, and also to prepare themselves for this transition? Because the president of the republic, like he said 2 years ago, talked about a transition, which means that they know that they're going to be leaving the stage. But how prepared are the young people to take over?
The first thing is that, Mr. Liu, Cameroonian youths are very, very engaged. Some of them, like me, we are very conscious of the evolution of the country. Now, the issue is, it is first of all, let the terrain be level. When I talk of the terrain, let the terrain be level, is that let there be this consciousness, let there be this aspect that a youth feels involved. Because when we look, for instance, I'll still go back to the political aspect. When you look at the senatorial elections that are coming up in March, when you go through the list of candidates that are to go in for senatorial elections, Mr. Liu, it's difficult to find somebody who is less than 40 years in it. There's a problem in that. A majority of those who have been taken into the political party, let me talk about the CPDM, are persons, some were ex-ministers, some were directors, and others. And I think that it's a problem. We were thinking that for the head of state to encourage the youth, to make them more involved, bring in a young man of even 32 years, 28 years. We've seen persons who are 28, 30, who are managing in other countries. Why should Cameroon be an exception? Another issue is, Mr. Liu, there is this issue of voter apathy in Cameroon. Many persons in Cameroon feel that there is already a winner at the end of every election. Now, there should be this consciousness that the head of state should also assure the youth. I was thinking that that is one of the things he should tell Cameroonians and the youth, that do not think that your vote will not count. Your vote will count. And also, Mr. Liu, there is this aspect of the CPDM one-man show that is ongoing in the country Cameroon. When you go to the northwest and the southwest, for instance, the Social Democratic Front, the SDF, has just one council in Bamenda, and the whole of southwest is a CPDM. Now, if we were to go by the senatorial elections, for instance, Mr. Liu, and that given us only councillors that vote, stricto sensu, without if the SDF will have a councillor in the northwest and the southwest. So I think that when people look at some of these aspects, the youth, I'm speaking as a youth, Mr. Liu, when we look at these aspects, it discourages them. So let it be a level ground aspect for the youth. And secondly, let there also be an enabling environment for entrepreneurship. Of course, the head of state has encouraged Cameroonians to embrace entrepreneurship. One day I sat with a young guy who started a small business, and I was forced to quarrel with one of the council agents. If you see the taxes they give a young man who starts a business of 50,000, his taxes is even more than the 50,000. It's already another way of telling the young man this is not your field. A young man who even starts a normal bike, who starts what they even call balance and take, which means you buy a bike and give a young man to be riding the bike to give you balance every day. But at the end of the day, he has lots and lots of taxes to pay. So I think that, Mr. Liu, the first thing is, let the terrain be level. Youths in Cameroon are very hardworking. Okay? But the issue is, the terrain is not level. If the terrain were level, many Cameroonians would not live out of Cameroon. That's a fact. Because when you look at those who are succeeding in Cameroon, look at Dangote, for instance. Look at the Chinese people. When you go to Douche, it's owned by either the Nigerians or the Chinese people. Go to the Kumba main market, it's the same case. So I think that Cameroonians have a lot of potentials, most particularly the youth. But where the problem is that apparently Cameroon is for the big guns. You start a small business, the next day the taxes will cause you to crumble. So I think that it is time they made the terrain to be level. And since we are talking and the head of state was addressing as the president, there is also this aspect, Mr. Liu, of the electoral system. The electoral system needs to be very clean and transparent to encourage people to go to the ballot box. Because like Ndifo cited, Fabrice Lena is a friend. I encourage him, of the Popular Actions Party. He's a very good friend. When I see the energy he has in him, I keep calling him. I used to have a very good friend who is still a friend, Darcy Evans. This is a young guy who wants to become a parliamentarian for Mr. J. But the big guns tell him, not here. They don't do that here. And the young man is frustrated and he sees him in America. So I think that the terrain should be level. So much such that it is not only an issue of deciding and sharing to people. Of course, we know that senatorial elections are coming ahead. They're supposed to vote 70 senators and 30 will be appointed. Now, if you were to go by what is ongoing in Cameroon, it means that when you go, for instance, to the Noon Division, you have the UDC of Adamu Ndamjoya. When you go, for instance, to the Sanaga Maritime, you have the PCRN of Cabrali B. When you go to the far north, you have the Bello Bubas and the Cheruma Bakaris. Now, come to the littoral, of course, it's a CPDM. Go to the northwest, it's a CPDM. Go to the southwest, it's a CPDM. Go to the center, to the south. So I think that the terrain, which is most importantly, Mr. Liu, let the terrain be clear. Let the atmosphere be clear. So much such that when you're engaging into something, you're engaging without fear. The issue is, many Cameroonians want to engage into politics, Mr. Liu. But the issue is, enter even within the CPDM political ranks. They'll tell you you need to be cooked. You need to go through the internal policies of the party. It takes you at least 10, 15 years. And I said something before now, Mr. Liu. I don't want to call my age on air, but this is 2023. If I were to look at the age I have today, I'm looking at Vision 2035. Truth be told, that vision is not targeting me. By then, I would have been thinking of somebody else, not me.
Okay.
So I think that let the terrain be clear.
Thank you very much for coming. We are out of time already, but we had to discuss about the real story behind the plebiscite, the 11th February celebrations. But let's take a listen to what we actually are celebrating today, as told to us by Professor Victor Julius Ngo, after which we are going to have one word and close the date. But I have a book here, past GCE and summarized answers with key interpretations, Cameroon History, Advanced Level Section A, B, and C by Mr. Gentle. If you want to pass the GCE Advanced Level with ease, please. I think, but next week we are going to come back to this. But if you need a copy, get to me, I'll share with you. Let's take a listen to Professor Victor Julius Ngo on what we are celebrating as 11th of February.
Please introduce yourself for us, please.
Yeah, well, I am Victor Julius Ngo, president of the Catholic University Institute of Boya, and I'm a historian, professor of history.
What is the historical fact of the 11th of February?
In fact, you've asked a very pertinent question, because over the years I've had many Cameroonians, especially Anglophones, misinterpret, misinform and Cameroonians as to the origin of the Youth Day. And it is important to set the record straight. There's this misunderstanding, misconception that the Youth Day was initially called the Empire Day, and then it was moved to 11th February, which as far as Anglophones are concerned, that is the population of Northwest and Southwest. 11th February 1961 was the plebiscite day. And the general misconception is that the change or the use of 11th February as Youth Day was the manipulation, the work of Amadou Ahidjo, and by extension, the various Francophone regimes in Yaoundé. That is the Amadou Ahidjo regime and the DR regime. And I think it is one of the reasons that some Anglophones believe that Anglophones have not been well treated, and they cite the use of the 11th February as Youth Day. So I would like to make it very clear. There's a difference, there's a confusion between Empire Day, Youth Day, and the National Day. Empire Day was initially a day reserved for school children to celebrate the birthday of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria was born on the 24th of May, 1819. And she became queen at the young age of 18 years. So May 24th was celebrated after she became queen. And when she died on the 22nd of January 1901, her birthday was now transformed to Empire Day. And Empire Day was celebrated all in the British Empire. And as far as Southern Cameroon is concerned, which will make this very, very clear, the first time that Empire Day was celebrated in British Southern Cameroon was in 1949. That was the first time. Then we now move to 1954. British Southern Cameroon was administered as part of the eastern region of Nigeria. In 1953, there was the Eastern Regional Crisis, and more importantly, Southern Cameroon wanted a separate region from the Eastern region of Nigeria, because for administrative inconvenience, the British administered Southern Cameroon as part of the Eastern region of Nigeria. So, following the outbreak of the Eastern Regional Crisis in 1953, there were two political parties that emerged in Southern Cameroon: the KNC, the Cameroon National Congress, and the KPPP, Cameroon People's Party. In 1954, following the political evolution in Southern Cameroon was given a quasi-federal status, and Dr. Ewane Eli was the leader of government business. This was on the 26th of October 1954. So between 1954 and right up to 1960, October 26th was celebrated in British Southern Cameroon more or less as the National Day, because it was on that day that Southern Cameroon got quote-unquote an autonomy, although it was not a full-fledged region. In 1958, between 1954 and 1958, Southern Cameroon celebrated two important events: Empire Day on May 24th, and quote-unquote the National Day, October 26th. In 1958, given the and quote-unquote the National Day, October 26th. In 1958, given the independent movements in several British colonies and territories, they felt uncomfortable once they achieved independence to be treated as if they were still a colony. So in 1958, Empire Day was changed to British Commonwealth of Nations Day. And it was still celebrated March past by school children sporting activities. But it was not called Empire Day after 1958. And Cameroonians, especially Anglophones, should be made to understand that 1958 it became British Commonwealth of Nations Day. So in 1960 and 1961, 11 February 1961, Southern Cameroonians of voting age, eligible, voted to achieve independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. This plebiscite took place on the 11th of February 1961. And when Southern Cameroon became independent by joining the Republic of Cameroon, it achieved independence outside the Commonwealth. This is important. They achieved independence outside the Commonwealth, which meant what? It meant that the celebration of a British Commonwealth of Nations Day, which was formerly Empire Day, was no longer celebrated in Southern Cameroon because Southern Cameroon was not a member of the British Commonwealth of Nations. So in 1961, we now had 2 days, two important days. You had October 26th, which was the quote-unquote the National Day, and then you had 1st October, which was the Independence Day. And alongside that, you had the Commonwealth Day, which West Cameroon or Southern Cameroon was no longer celebrating because Southern Cameroon was not a member of the Commonwealth. So in 1962, the KNDP government, led by John Foncha, decided that October 26th will be celebrated as what? As Youth Day, sporting activities with he invited the mayors of Kongsamba, Yaoundé, Douala, Mekribi to join West Cameroonians to celebrate the youth activities of 11 February 1964. The Boda canoe team defeated the Bimbia canoe team. It was in 1964. The KNDP government did it again in 1965. And the Amadou Ahidjo government and the Charles Asale government of East Cameroon were very impressed because the underlying theme of what Foncha explained was that the youths had the destiny of the country in their hands. Celebrating Youth Day, bringing together the youths in West Cameroon, will reinforce national unity, will reinforce national mobilization, will reinforce national consolidation. So in 1965, when again it was done, Amadou Ahidjo was very happy, very excited. Charles Asale was very happy, very excited. They discussed with John Foncha and said, what you people are doing in West Cameroon on the 11th of February is very, very good. It's good for the nation. Therefore, it will also be celebrated in East Cameroon. And the first time it was celebrated in East Cameroon was in 1966. So you have West Cameroon and East Cameroon jointly celebrated the youth and sporting activities on the 11th of February.
Monday is okay for me.
Okay for you? But let's see, next week I would really actually wanted us to discuss entirely the program to us, looking at the plebiscite, looking at what happened in Mamfe, what happened at the United Nations, what happened in London, and all of it before actually agreeing on these questions, because it was difficult for what I've read. It was difficult for the parties to agree. That is why the United Nations has to set it. Yes. So I want us to look at that. Please, televiewers, we are going to come back on this. and possibly give us more opportunities to have this book by Gentle on the past questions and summarized answers by Gentle for advanced level history,
key interpretation, summary.
Okay. So please, if you are a history student taking the advanced level, get to me. I will share Gentle's number with you so that you can have a copy of this. They call it pamphlet now.
Yes,
Small summarized pamphlet. We want to thank you, Prince, for coming.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Liu. I'm happy that you are coming back to this topic next week. Hopefully with historians, Professor Victor Julius Ngohuma, respected Lord, has thrown light on it, and it will be a privilege that comes live here, because ask many children who march tomorrow, they'll tell you.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and thanks for having me on the program today. Let me take the opportunity again to say I'm terribly sorry for the word I used on the senator or the president of the Senate. I want to say I'm sincerely sorry for that misuse of words. And I want to thank my co-panelists and the viewers for their time, and also to again say Happy Youth Week to all the youths of Cameroon.
Okay, thank you too for coming, Gentle.
Thanks very much, Mr. Leonard. I will just go straight to you. We are talking about unemployment. I talk about an online platform that we want to legalize Young Teachers Association, YOTAS, for those young teachers who are unemployed, who are the talent to become teachers and are unemployed. You can always contact us. We have meetings in all the 10 regions, more than 400 teachers. The 26th of this February, we're having a meeting. Sacred Heart, a new college open in Bonaberi, directly behind African Pharmacy, 3 p.m., 26th Sunday, 3 p.m. So you can always get my contact, 679-323504, 679-323504. We'll join you to the group, we'll skill you as a teacher, we'll create job for you. We teach you not only teaching, but as an entrepreneur. We work together in collaboration. Two are better than one.
Okay, Prince Obosso, thank you too for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Kum Leonard, for giving me this opportunity to express myself, and once more congratulate the head of state for the good job that he has been doing, and for the trust that he continued to have on the youths of Cameroon. I want to conclude by saying that the same way the people of British Southern Cameroon voted to join La République du Cameroun is the same way the people of Cameroon are going to vote massively for Frank-Emmanuel Olivier Biya to take after President Paul Biya. The Frankist movement is on. We are calling on the youths to take over their destiny into their own hands and join politics and participate massively, because generational transition is now.
Okay, generational transition is now. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Thank you to Desmond and Eli for producing the program across the week. Tabitha Brian for supervision. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.